A man sits in his apartment at night. His room is quiet, but his mind is not. The glow of a screen illuminates his face as he scrolls endlessly through videos, memes, updates, and ads. He isn't chained. He isn't beaten. He is free to walk outside, to explore, to meet people, to create, to learn. Yet he doesn't move. His thumb swipes again and again and again. Hours vanish. His body remains still, but his mind is consumed. This is not an unusual picture. In fact, it is ordinary. Millions of us live inside this invisible cage every day, and that is exactly what Aldous Huxley warned us about. In his prophetic novel Brave New World, Huxley suggested that the future wouldn't enslave us through pain, but through pleasure. Not through tyrants who whip us into obedience, but through comforts so seductive that we willingly surrender our freedom. The drug in his story was called Soma, a pill that took away anxiety, sadness, and discomfort. A society built on this drug looked happy, even peaceful, but beneath the surface people had lost the ability to think, to suffer, to rebel, to grow. Now ask yourself, what is our Soma? It doesn't come in a pill. It comes in streaming services, in shopping discounts, in likes and hearts on social media, in alcohol, in sugary food, in pornography, in endless scrolling. It comes in the form of everything that soothes us, numbs us, and keeps us from facing the discomfort of existence. The terrifying part is not that these things exist, they always have. The terrifying part is that we no longer notice how they control us. Slavery is an ugly word. It conjures images of chains, forced labor, and brutality. But what if the strongest chains are the ones you cannot see? Think about it. If a tyrant forced you to watch meaningless videos for 6 hours, you would resist. If a dictator ordered you to spend your money on objects you don't need, you would rebel. If a master commanded you to live distracted, shallow, and addicted, you would call it oppression. But when the command doesn't come from outside, when it comes disguised as pleasure, you obey with a smile. Arthur Schopenhauer, the German pessimist philosopher, wrote that human life is ruled by what he called the will. This will is not rational. It is a blind, insatiable force that pushes us to desire endlessly: food, sex, status, possessions, entertainment. Once one desire is satisfied, another immediately rises. He believed this cycle condemned us to suffering because we are never at peace. Now imagine a system, an economy, a culture that doesn't fight this cycle but fuels it. Every time you scroll, another craving is triggered. Every time you buy, another product is waiting. Every time you taste sweetness, your brain is rewired to want more. You are no longer an individual making free choices. You are a consumer caught in a loop designed to exploit your will. Doesn't that sound eerily similar to slavery? But here lies the trick. This slavery feels good. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't punish. It is rewarding. The cage is padded, decorated, and full of shiny objects. Imagine a bird placed inside a golden cage. The bird has food, water, and safety. The door is open, but the bird doesn't leave. Why? Because it has forgotten the meaning of flight. It has accepted comfort as freedom. This is us. We accept distractions as living. We accept dopamine as joy. We confuse stimulation with meaning. Carl Jung warned about this exact danger. He said that modern man avoids confronting his inner world, the shadow, the pain, the unknown, by distracting himself with external things. We chase pleasures not because they satisfy us, but because they prevent us from looking in the mirror. They are escapes, not solutions. The irony? The more we run from discomfort, the weaker we become in facing it. Picture this. A man works a 9-to-5 job. He doesn't hate it, but he doesn't love it either. He comes home drained, but instead of resting, he collapses onto the couch and opens his phone. An hour passes, then 2, then 3. He tells himself it's relaxing, but deep down he feels emptier than before. Why? Because what he consumed didn't nourish him. It distracted him. He postponed the deeper question of his life. What am I here for? With shallow pleasures. Now multiply him by millions, by billions. A whole society is repeating this cycle, each individual thinking they are free, when in reality, they are collectively trapped. This is Huxley's nightmare realized. Not a society beaten into silence, but a society laughing, scrolling, drinking, shopping, entertained into silence. Here's the painful truth. Freedom is not measured by how many pleasures we have access to, but by how many desires we can say no to. Think about your own life. When was the last time you chose discomfort over comfort, silence over noise, presence over distraction? When was the last time you sat with boredom instead of running from it? True freedom is not the ability to consume whatever we want. It is the ability to not be consumed by what we want. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. But today, how many of us can truly say we have power over our mind? How many of us wake up and live intentionally, rather than being pulled by algorithms, cravings, and impulses? So let's return to the man in his apartment scrolling at night. He thinks he is relaxing, but is he? Or is he being drained minute by minute by a system designed to feed on his attention? He is not beaten. He is not oppressed. Yet he is not free. His cage is invisible, and that makes it even harder to escape. The first step, then, is awareness. To recognize that pleasure is not always freedom, and comfort is not always peace. To see the invisible bars of the cage around us. To admit that slavery in the 21st century doesn't come with whips and chains. It comes with entertainment, dopamine, and distractions. And here is the most haunting part. The master doesn't need to force us anymore. We force ourselves. Huxley was right. The danger is not that we will be oppressed by pain, but that we will be seduced by pleasure. The real threat to freedom is not tyranny. It is addiction. The cage we don't see is the hardest one to escape. But once we recognize it, a door opens. The door to awareness, the door to self-mastery, the door to true freedom. The question is simple, yet terrifying. Will you walk out of the cage, or stay inside because it feels comfortable? Why do we chase what we know will eventually harm us? A child reaches for candy. A teenager stays up all night on video games. An adult pours another glass of wine after promising it would be the last. At first, these moments look innocent, even harmless. But hidden beneath them lies a truth older than civilization itself. Pleasure is never free. It always asks for something in return. The price is not always obvious. Sometimes it is your time, sometimes your health, sometimes your very sense of meaning. And yet knowing this, we still chase it. Why? Psychology tells us that the human brain is wired for reward. Each small burst of pleasure, whether from sugar, alcohol, gambling, or even a like on social media, releases dopamine. Dopamine does not simply give us joy. It creates anticipation. It whispers, more, again, now. This is why you can eat a second slice of cake even when the first has already made you full. This is why you keep refreshing your feed, waiting for something new, though the last 20 swipes gave you nothing. It is not about the pleasure itself. It is about the endless pursuit of it. As Gabor Mate, the physician and thinker, explains, addiction is not about the substance itself. It is about the attempt to escape pain. Addiction is not a love of pleasure. It is a desperate flight from suffering. So the real question is not, why do we chase pleasure? The real question is, what are we trying to avoid? Consider Anna. She is 32, successful and admired. She has a good job, a nice apartment, and a circle of friends. On the surface, she has won the game of modern life. But when she returns home at night, she feels a hollowness she cannot explain. At first, she tried to ignore it. A few glasses of wine helped. Later, Netflix marathons, endless scrolling, occasional shopping sprees. Each gave her a burst of relief, a temporary silence. But the hollowness always returned, louder than before. Anna's story is not unique. It is the quiet tragedy of millions. Pleasure soothes her, but it does not heal her. Instead, it chains her more deeply. What looks like choice is, in truth, compulsion. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "Man does not strive for pleasure. Only the Englishman does." What he meant was that pleasure is not our highest aim. When we chase it as if it were the meaning of life, we degrade ourselves. Nietzsche believed life is suffering, and greatness comes not from avoiding pain, but from embracing it. By numbing ourselves with pleasures, we refuse to confront the reality of existence. We trade growth for comfort, courage for sedation. He would look at Anna, or at us, and say, "You are not living. You are hiding." Think of pleasure like wine. 1 glass warms the heart. 2 glasses relax the body. But drink too much, and the same sweetness turns toxic. The difference between nourishment and poison is not in the thing itself, but in the dose. The same is true of modern pleasures. Entertainment is not evil. Food is not evil. Social connection is not evil. But when these things escape from meaning, when they become replacements for truth, they turn poisonous. We mistake the first sip of relief for the whole solution, and by the time we realize the trap, we are already addicted. If pleasure harms us, why don't we stop? Why does the smoker light another cigarette knowing it will kill him? Why does the binge watcher stay up until dawn knowing tomorrow will be miserable? Why does Anna drink though it deepens her emptiness? Because stopping would mean facing what lies beneath. Gabor Mate argues that all addiction is rooted in pain, childhood wounds, unmet needs, unprocessed grief. The substance or activity is not the problem. It is the solution we cling to. Take it away, and we are forced to confront the raw wound itself. So we keep drinking from the poisoned cup, because even poison feels safer than silence. There is another trap, the belief that we are still in control. A man who gambles says, "I can quit whenever I want." The woman who drinks nightly insists, "I'm just unwinding." The teenager who scrolls TikTok for hours laughs, "It's just for fun." But Schopenhauer's philosophy exposes the lie. He argued that what we call willpower is an illusion, because the will, the deep blind craving inside us, is stronger than reason. We think we are free, but often we are servants of desires we barely understand. The proof is simple. If you truly had control, why haven't you stopped? Imagine a banquet hall filled with endless food, music, and laughter. Everyone eats, drinks, and dances, but slowly they begin to notice something strange. No matter how much they consume, their hunger never fades. The music grows louder, but their joy does not grow with it. The laughter rings hollow. This is the modern banquet of pleasure. We gorge ourselves on comfort, yet remain spiritually starved. The feast is endless, but the nourishment never comes. Tolstoy once faced this crisis. At the height of his success, fame, wealth, family, he felt life was meaningless. He realized that all the pleasures and achievements he had chased were powerless to answer the deeper question, why live at all? His despair nearly drove him to suicide, but it also pushed him toward a profound truth. Pleasure without meaning is emptiness. So what is the lesson of this sweet poison? It is not that pleasure must be rejected. Life is not about denying ourselves joy or beauty. The lesson is that pleasure cannot carry the weight of meaning. When we mistake pleasure for purpose, it becomes poison. When we use it as an escape, it enslaves us. The first glass of wine may relax you. The second may numb you. But by the third, the drink owns you more than you own it. The same is true of every pleasure. So let us return to the question, why do we chase what we know will eventually harm us? Because deep down we fear the silence. We fear emptiness. We fear the wound we carry inside. Pleasure is the mask we put on to hide from ourselves. But here lies the paradox. The more we mask the wound, the deeper it grows. The more we escape, the more enslaved we become. The only way forward is courage. The courage to face life not only in its sweetness, but in its bitterness. Not only in comfort, but in suffering. Because as the philosophers remind us, it is only by embracing discomfort that we discover true freedom. Are you truly living your life, or just echoing the crowd? On a Saturday night, the city glows. Restaurants are full, malls are buzzing, streets are lined with neon signs. Everywhere people are laughing, eating, drinking, scrolling, snapping photos. It feels alive, vibrant, free, human. Yet if you look closer, a strange sameness emerges. The laughter sounds the same. The outfits look the same. The conversations repeat the same headlines, the same jokes, the same recycled opinions. It is as if an invisible conductor stands before them, orchestrating the entire performance. Each person believes they are making their own choices, but together, they move like a single organism, a herd, and the herd does not think. There is safety in numbers. When everyone is doing the same thing, it feels right. When everyone is chasing the same pleasures, it feels normal. Who wants to be the outsider who refuses the party, who questions the celebration, who turns off the screen? Arthur Schopenhauer warned of this exact danger. He argued that reason collapses in groups. The individual, who might be thoughtful on his own, becomes irrational when swallowed by the crowd. The herd does not ask, "Is this meaningful?" The herd asks only, "Is everyone else doing it?" And in the modern world, the herd has new shepherds, algorithms, advertisers, influencers. They do not push us with whips. They guide us with rewards. Likes, discounts, viral trends. The result? A society where people feel free, yet act in unison, consuming the same shows, buying the same products, speaking the same slogans. It is modern slavery disguised as fun. Carl Jung wrote that every human carries a shadow, the parts of ourselves we repress, deny, or fear. To face the shadow requires courage. It requires solitude, silence, and deep inner work. But most people do not want to do this. It is easier to drown the shadow in distractions, to follow the herd into the glowing noise of collective pleasure. This is why society rewards conformity. A man who questions his life too deeply makes others uncomfortable. A woman who chooses solitude over shallow pleasures looks strange. The herd punishes those who step outside, because the herd survives by avoiding reflection. But here's the paradox. The more we run from our shadow, the more it controls us. By refusing to face our inner emptiness, we become slaves to whatever the herd tells us will fill it. Imagine a festival. Millions attend. Each person wears different clothes, but all are bought from the same stores. Each person eats different meals, but all are sold by the same corporations. Each person shares their unique moments online, but all are filtered through the same apps, designed by the same few tech companies. The illusion is individuality. The reality is mass conformity. And the saddest part? Most people don't care. The herd offers safety. It offers belonging. It offers the soothing feeling of not being alone. But what good is belonging if it costs your freedom? What good is pleasure if it is chosen for you, not by you? This problem is not new. 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosopher Seneca warned that the crowd corrupts reason. "Associate with those who will make a better man of you," he wrote. "Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." The process is mutual. For men learn while they teach, yet we rarely choose our influences with care. Instead, we surrender to the loudest voices, the brightest screens, the easiest pleasures. We let the herd tell us what is fashionable, what is funny, what is important. And slowly, our ability to think for ourselves withers away. Picture David, a young man walking through a shopping district. Billboards flash above him, music blares from stores, advertisements line every wall. He tells himself he is simply browsing, but each step pulls him deeper into desire. A pair of shoes, a new phone, a trending jacket. Soon, he is carrying bags in both hands. Does David need these things? Not really, but he has convinced himself that without them, he will fall behind. The herd will look at him and know he is outdated, unfashionable, less than. David doesn't realize that he has been programmed. His freedom is a script written by marketers who understand his psychology better than he does. He is no longer choosing. He is obeying. The philosopher Kierkegaard put it bluntly, "The crowd is untruth." He argued that truth exists only in the individual, never in the herd. When you dissolve into the crowd, you surrender your responsibility to think, to question, to live authentically, and that is the true tragedy of modern pleasure. It does not only enslave us as individuals, it enslaves us together. A mass of people, all scrolling, all laughing, all shopping, all addicted, yet all convinced they are free. The herd has no master, because the herd itself becomes the master. Why do we cling to the herd? Because solitude terrifies us. To step away from the crowd means facing silence, facing your own thoughts, facing the possibility that life, as you have lived it, is empty. Most people would rather drown in noise than face that possibility, so we hide. We hide in the crowd and trends and pleasures. We hide in sameness. We hide in slavery that feels like freedom. The herd is seductive because it makes life easy. It tells you what to want, how to behave, who to be. But ease is not freedom. True freedom requires the burden of thought, the courage to walk alone, the willingness to face your shadow. Schopenhauer once wrote, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone." Think about that. If your sense of self exists only in the crowd, then it is not truly yours. It is borrowed, temporary, fragile. So the question becomes, are you willing to leave the festival of sameness, even if it means being misunderstood, judged, or alone? Or will you keep marching with the herd, smiling as your chains rattle softly beneath the music? We live in an age where conformity wears the mask of freedom, and slavery dresses itself in pleasure. The herd laughs, dances, and consumes, but rarely asks, why? To see through the disguise requires strength. To step away requires courage. To live authentically requires sacrifice, but in the end, the choice is simple. You can belong to the herd, or you can belong to yourself. You cannot do both. Why do we feel most alone in the moments designed to entertain us? The room is quiet except for the flicker of a television screen. A man lies on his couch, surrounded by the glow of entertainment. He has everything: snacks, Wi-Fi, streaming, games, comfort. Yet the longer he stares, the heavier his chest feels. He laughs at the comedy, cheers at the action, scrolls through endless feeds. But when the noise fades, when the credits roll, he is left with a silence more unbearable than before. This is the paradox of addiction. The very things meant to connect us, soothe us, or fill us, often leave us emptier than when we began. Gabor Mate explains that every addiction, no matter its form, drugs, alcohol, gambling, sex, food, screens, is not about the substance itself. It is about the pain it masks. The addict is not seeking pleasure, but relief. Relief from loneliness. Relief from anxiety. Relief from the unbearable question, is this all there is? But here lies the trap. Relief is not nourishment. The cigarette takes the edge off, but leaves the lungs weaker. The bottle silences the mind, but poisons the body. The screen distracts from emptiness, but deepens it when the distraction ends. Pleasure without nourishment is like eating food with no nutrients. It fills you, but only with emptiness. Consider the case of Leo Tolstoy, one of the greatest writers in history. By his 50s, he had achieved everything most people dream of: fame, wealth, family, artistic immortality. And yet, he was haunted by despair. In his memoir, A Confession, Tolstoy admitted that he could no longer see the point of living. Every pleasure, every achievement, every comfort seemed meaningless. He wrote, "My question, that which at the age of 50 brought me to the verge of suicide, was the simplest of questions. What will come of what I am doing today or shall do tomorrow? What will come of my whole life?" Tolstoy realized what many addicts eventually realize. Pleasure cannot answer the deepest questions of life. It can be distracting, it can be sedated, but it cannot give meaning. Think of the modern binge watcher. He sits at midnight, one episode after another, eyes glazed, body still. He tells himself it is fun. But when the final episode ends, when the show is over, a strange emptiness rises. It is not just boredom. It is loneliness. Addiction is deeply lonely, because it isolates us from reality, from others, and from ourselves. The addict hides. He hides behind the bottle, the phone, the smoke, the shopping bag. He hides from his pain, but in doing so, he hides from authentic connection. The more we escape, the lonelier we become. And the lonelier we become, the more we escape. It is a perfect circle, an Ouroboros, the snake devouring its own tail. Social media promises connection. It gives us likes, comments, emojis, small sparks of belonging. But do they truly nourish us? Carl Jung warned that modern man risks drowning in shallow connections while starving for deep ones. To truly meet another person requires vulnerability, honesty, silence, presence. Yet the addict cannot give these things because he cannot face himself. So he settles for the illusion, a digital crowd that cheers his photos but knows nothing of his soul. The addict of screens is never alone, but always lonely. Addiction thrives where meaning is absent. Imagine a life without purpose. You wake up, go to work, pay bills, scroll, sleep, repeat. At first you distract yourself with pleasures. But as years pass, the emptiness grows heavier. Soon, the pleasure itself becomes the only thing that keeps you moving. Not joy, not purpose. Not love, just the cycle of craving and relief. This is why Tolstoy's despair is so important. He showed that even when you possess everything, without meaning, life collapses. Addiction fills the void for a while, but the void always returns. There is another cruelty to addiction. The body keeps score. The binge eater carries guilt in his stomach, the smoker in his lungs, the drinker in his liver, the screen addict in his hollow eyes and restless mind. Pleasure offers instant relief, but the body records every escape, every avoidance. Slowly, the body becomes a mirror of the soul's emptiness, heavy, restless, exhausted, aching. Have you noticed how addiction feels strongest at night? The day distracts us with work, noise, and obligations. But at night, when silence comes, the questions rise. Am I truly living? Or just existing? That is when the addict reaches for relief. Another drink, another video, another scroll. Anything to silence the whisper of truth. But here's the cruel irony. The very thing we reach for to silence the emptiness deepens it. The more we escape, the more the emptiness grows. So what do we learn from this? Addiction is not about weakness. It is about hunger. Not hunger for pleasure, but hunger for meaning. The man on the couch is not lazy. He is starving. Starving for purpose, for truth, for connection. The addict's heart is empty, not because it is broken, but because it has been fed with substitutes. As long as we feed the soul with pleasures instead of meaning, it will remain empty. So let us return to our lonely man, surrounded by screens. He is not chained. He is not beaten. Yet he is enslaved to emptiness, to distraction, to relief, without healing. His story is ours. We live in a culture that offers endless pleasures but starves us of meaning. A culture that sells entertainment but cannot teach us how to live. The lesson is simple, but difficult. Until we seek meaning beyond pleasure, our hearts will remain hollow. Or, as Tolstoy discovered in his despair, life without meaning is not life at all. What if freedom is not in getting more, but in needing less? The world tells us we are free to choose, free to consume, free to enjoy. But when you look closely, most of us are trapped, not by chains of iron, but by chains of craving. We chase what we believe will make us happy: money, recognition, comfort, entertainment. Yet every achievement brings a new hunger. Every pleasure fades. Every desire multiplies. We are free to choose, yes, but only between cages. The question is, how do we escape? Aldous Huxley warned in Brave New World that humanity might not be enslaved by tyranny, but by pleasure itself. In his vision, people were not forced into obedience. They willingly submitted, numbed by constant entertainment and artificial happiness. That world is not fiction anymore. We don't need dictators to silence us. Our own screens do it better. We don't need guards to watch us. Our addictions keep us still. And so the paradox emerges. The more pleasure we consume, the less free we become. Pleasure, once a gift, turns into a leash. The Stoics knew this trap long before smartphones and streaming. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, surrounded by luxuries, wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This was not denial. It was survival. Marcus had power, wealth, armies, yet he warned against being ruled by desire. To need less is to weaken the power of external control. To need less is to make yourself free. Contrast this with modern life. We are told freedom means unlimited choice. But unlimited choice is exhausting. Every new option brings new craving. Every craving brings new dependence. True freedom, Marcus teaches, is not in abundance, but in simplicity. Friedrich Nietzsche took a different approach. He saw humans as creatures of striving, driven by what he called the will to power. For Nietzsche, pleasure is not an end. It is a byproduct of growth, strength, and creation. When we chase pleasure directly, we are deceived. It slips through our hands like water. But when we chase meaning, mastery, and strength, pleasure arrives naturally. Imagine the difference between eating junk food and training for a marathon. The first gives pleasure instantly, but leaves the body weaker. The second requires discipline, struggle, pain. But the joy that follows is richer, lasting. Transformative Nietzsche would say, pleasure is shallow when pursued, but profound when earned. Consider the rise of minimalism in our age. Why does the idea of living with less attract so many, even in a world of abundance? Because deep down, we know that possessions do not free us. They weigh us down. Every object demands space, care, attention. Every subscription demands time. Every indulgence demands repetition. Minimalism whispers a dangerous truth. You are already carrying more than you need. And what you carry is carrying you away from freedom. The minimalist is not poor. He is light. He is unchained. The first man wakes up, checks his phone, scrolls through updates, drinks coffee with sugar, drives to work to pay for the car, the house, the subscriptions. He returns home exhausted, seeks relief in television, drinks to forget, and falls asleep anxious. He believes he is free, but he cannot go a day without these rituals. The second man wakes with the sun, walks outside, breathes the air, works at what gives him meaning, eats simply, enjoys conversation, and rests without fear of silence. He may have less money, less technology, fewer luxuries, but he is free. Who is richer? Who is freer? Escaping the pleasure trap requires courage. Why? Because when we strip away distractions, silence confronts us. The smoker who quits must face anxiety without a cigarette. The binge watcher who turns off the screen must face loneliness without noise. The overworker who slows down must face emptiness without achievement. This is why many fail. The silence is too heavy. The cravings are too sharp. But within that silence lies the possibility of truth. Carl Jung wrote, People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Addiction is the proof of this. Escaping it requires the bravery to finally look inward. So what is the way out? Not a quick fix, not a 10-step formula, but a principle. Choose meaning over relief. When you crave the screen, ask, what pain am I avoiding? When you crave the drink, ask, what emptiness am I trying to fill? When you crave applause, ask, why do I need their approval? Do not fight pleasure by force. Instead, weaken its hold by feeding the soul what it truly hungers for: truth, love, purpose, creation. This is why people recover from addiction when they find something greater than themselves. A mission, a family, a faith, a calling. Relief without meaning enslaves, but meaning transforms suffering into strength. But let us be honest, freedom is dangerous. To live without chains is to live without excuses. It means you cannot blame the bottle, the screen, or the world. You must face yourself fully. This is why many prefer the comfort of cages. The addict, the consumer, the distracted. They live half-lives, but they are safe. To walk into freedom is to risk pain, uncertainty, solitude. And yet, only there does life truly begin. We live in an age where slavery wears the mask of pleasure. Our prisons are comfortable, our cages entertaining, our chains invisible. But the key to escape has always been the same: I need less. Choose meaning. Face yourself. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. True freedom is not given by society. It is claimed by the soul. The greatest rebellion is to live with purpose in a world built on distraction. The story ends where it began, with a man staring at the glow of his screen. The room is the same, the world unchanged. But something inside him stirs. He sees, perhaps for the first time, the invisible bars around him, not made of steel, but of craving, noise, and habit. And he asks the question most people never dare to ask: what if my life could be different? Aldous Huxley once wrote that the most perfect dictatorship would not be one where people are forced into silence, but one where they are too entertained to speak. In such a society, no chains are needed. People willingly surrender their freedom for comfort. This is modern slavery, not imposed from above, but chosen from within. Addiction, distraction, herd mentality, they are not just personal struggles. They are systems of control. If you are too busy chasing pleasure, you will never chase truth. If you are too distracted, you will never rebel. And so, the rebellion must begin in the only place it can: the human soul. Consider Viktor Frankl, who survived the concentration camps of Nazi Germany. Surrounded by suffering, stripped of freedom, watching death every day, he found one truth that kept him alive: meaning. Frankl wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. This is the fire of meaning. Pleasure fades, power corrupts, comfort numbs, but meaning endures. It gives strength in suffering, clarity in confusion, and courage in despair. This fire is what every addict, every lost soul, every modern slave is truly longing for. Not the next drink, not the next scroll, not the next applause, but the warmth of a life that matters." Rebellion begins with refusal. Not a violent uprising, but a quiet, no, no. I will not be enslaved by endless scrolling. No. I will not measure my worth by likes or applause. No. I will not sell my freedom for comfort. This refusal is radical because it disrupts the entire system. A person who needs little cannot be bought. A person who thinks deeply cannot be manipulated. A person who chooses meaning over pleasure cannot be controlled. To refuse the shallow is to reclaim the profound. Carl Jung understood the stakes. He wrote, "The world will ask you who you are, and if you do not know, the world will tell you." This is the essence of modern slavery. If you do not claim your identity, your purpose, your truth, the world will hand you one. It will tell you to be a consumer, a follower, a distraction addict, and you will obey, not because you were forced, but because you never asked the deeper question: who am I really? Rebellion means answering that question for yourself, even when the answer costs you everything. But let us not romanticize it. Freedom is not easy. To reject the endless buffet of modern pleasures is to embrace hunger at first. To silence distractions is to feel the weight of silence. To choose meaning is to confront suffering head-on. This is why so few rebel. They prefer the comfort of chains to the burden of freedom. They say, it's not so bad. At least I'm entertained. At least I'm comfortable. but comfort is not life. Life begins at the edge of comfort, where struggle, truth, and transformation dwell. Our culture tells us success is wealth, fame, recognition, indulgence. But what if success is something quieter? Success is the ability to sit in silence without fear. Success is to need less and live more. Success is to give more meaning than you take pleasure. In this vision, the truly successful are not the ones who have everything, but the ones who are free from needing everything. Imagine a young woman working in a corporate job. Her days are long, her nights consumed by Netflix and scrolling. She feels trapped but doesn't know why. One evening, instead of turning on her screen, she turns it off. She sits in silence. At first, it is unbearable. Her mind screams for distraction, but slowly she begins to write in a notebook. Words turn into reflections. Reflections turn into clarity. She realizes she doesn't want to spend her life chasing numbers in a bank account. She wants to teach, to create, to serve. This one small rebellion, the refusal to numb herself, sets her on a new path. She leaves the job. She lives with less money but more truth. She is not safe. She is not comfortable, but she is free. This is rebellion. Not grand, not loud, but real. The question then is not whether addiction, pleasure, and distraction exist. They do, and they always will. The question is, will you let them own you? Every day you stand at a crossroads. One path is wide, crowded, filled with noise and comfort. The other is narrow, lonely, and hard. The first path offers relief. The second offers freedom. Which will you choose? We began with Huxley's warning that pleasure itself could enslave humanity. We walked through Jung's shadow, Nietzsche's will, Tolstoy's despair, Mate's compassion, Marcus Aurelius's wisdom. All of them point to the same truth. Pleasure without meaning is slavery. Meaning, even with suffering, is freedom. So the rebellion is not outside of you. It is within. It is in the courage to face silence, the wisdom to need less, the strength to choose meaning. And when you do, you will discover the truth that has been hidden in plain sight. You were never meant to live as a slave. You were meant to live as a free soul, burning with purpose, unafraid of silence, alive with meaning. The end.